Thanks for staying with us. We're beginning in South Africa, where a corruption inquiry says it has established that state decision-making was influenced by private interests during former President Jacob Zuma's tenure. The inquiry, chaired by Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, was established to examine allegations of high-level graft during Zuma's 9 years in power from 2009 to 2018. Allegations of widespread corruption that have overshadowed South Africa's politics for years. Amongst other suggestions in the first part of its report released Tuesday, the inquiry recommends that the government publishes a national charter against corruption in public procurement, establish an independent anti-corruption agency, ensure protection for whistleblowers, and that legislation on political party funding be amended.
And the allegations leveled against Zuma include that he allowed businessmen close to him, brothers Atul, Ajay and Rajesh Gupta, to plunder state resources and influence policy in what is widely referred to in South Africa as state capture. Zuma denies wrongdoing and has refused to cooperate with the inquiry, leading to his imprisonment in July for contempt of court. He was placed on medical parole in September before being ordered back to jail by the High Court, a decision he is appealing against.
Okay, Arise South Africa Correspondent Mxolisi Masango has been monitoring developments and he joins us now live from Johannesburg. Hello, Mxolisi. Thanks for joining us on Newsnight. This is not very good news for, the government, particularly the ANC-led government. How damaging is this state capture report that's just been released? Over about 365 pages or so?
Indeed, about 365 pages in total of that report. Explosive report, if I might add, that was, of course, delivered by the Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo just a few hours ago to the President of the Republic. Now, this is all what about 4 years of testimonies as well as investigations have culminated to this particular explosive report. As we're having this conversation now, there's also been reports, rather a scathing report on the former President Jacob Zuma and how he used his influence to try and influence some parastatals, as well as use his position at the time to flout procedures as well as certain important aspects of procurement in some of these big parastatals. The very first part of the report entailed some of the testimony that we heard in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, which came from the SAA, which pertains to some of the rules and regulations that were flouted in the air carrier that subsequently brought the South African Airways to its knees, with it demanding more money as well as state bailouts because they could no longer function due to the fact that monies were looted, essentially. So this report does not really look good for some of the people that were implicated in it. And some of the big headliners in the first part of this report include former board chair Dudu Myeni, who is a prominent feature and was deemed to also be one of Jacob Zuma's closest allies at the time. Now she's accused of perjury as well as firing certain key level people there at the South African Airways carrier because they couldn't really heed the call to go ahead and sign documents which would subsequently lead to massive corruption. So some of those pertaining to that report at this particular are contained in that report at this time. And of course, the president says that he will be taking action as and when he gets all the other two reports that are still outstanding.
So, Lisi, apparently a defining moment for South Africa. It's taken 4 years to get to this point, and it seems it's just the beginning, really, of the journey. We hear that Ramaphosa will respond to the report in 6 months. Why is it going to take that long? And on the issue of his vow to end or, put behind South Africans the era of corruption and graft in public office, How are South Africans receiving that message and this particular report?
Look, on the one hand, you have him coming out to say he's the new sheriff in town. That's essentially cracking the whip on widespread corruption. But the proof is in the pudding, whether or not he'll be able to act on some of those people that are implicated in that scathing report. Many amongst some of the reactions that we've seen on social media coming out is that South Africans have adopted a rather passive reaction to what, as soon as the next scandal hits the headlines. But I can tell you one thing for a fact. We have a wave of civilians who are able to hold their government accountable, to want answers in terms of knowing where their tax money is being spent at that particular point in time, which has brought us to where we are essentially. South Africans have been, downloading the report a few minutes after it was, of course, released by the presidency. The site even crashed, showing that most South Africans have expressed a keen interest to really find out what Justice Raymond Zondo has come up with after all those 4 years of investigations, as well as testimonials. Like I said, the proof is in the pudding to see whether the new sheriff in town will be able to have that prosecutorial prowess in order to crack the whip against corruption.
Well, Mxolisi, one significant standout or recommendations in that report is the setting up of an anti-corruption agency. That definitely would be a creation of the parliament. And how soon do you think government is going to respond, to this suggestion or recommendation?
Look, we'd have to be very realistic on that. Of course, trying to institute and build up a new crime fighting unit is going to take a while. I use this on the basis that we've seen some other crime busting units come up into ashes in South Africa. The likes of the Scorpions as well were brought down to its knees due to corruption and due to the fact that they didn't really have the muscle to prosecute at the time due to political influence that was coming in. And as per I mentioned earlier on, it remains to be seen whether Ramaphosa will be a man of his word, because what he said when he received the report, he said he would have to go through it first before he's able to make an informed decision, because he said that so much is at stake with this report and he wants to send a strong message that corruption will not be tolerated, corruption will not be accepted in the country. So it remains to be seen whether he will heed the call, of course, to establish that particular crime busting unit. But it's obviously something that is not going to happen overnight. And as the rest of the two reports that are still outstanding, which will be delivered to the president by the end of February, we are really placing a keen eye to see what he will come out from what has been found out by Chief Justice Raymond Zondo on the 300 and something page that we've received thus far. And I mean, just going through it and skimming through it thus far, some of those allegations that are being placed there against senior government officials are quite explosive. So whether or not they warrant prosecution, whether or not the president will decide, well, as I wait in the meantime for the other two reports, let me do something, we're waiting to see that.
Yes, waiting to see. That definitely won't be for too long. Thanks so very much, Mxolisi Masango, a RISE South Africa correspondent, on that state capture report. Thank you.